Insurance agents from around the world, welcome to the Insurance Guys podcast, powered by Gail. My name is Scott Howell, your fearless host and leader, insurance agency owner and insurance evangelist for I Protect Insurance and Financial Services, based out of Huntsville, Alabama. And before we get started on today's episode, please help me welcome. He is a 6'3" sophomore from Mobile, Alabama. Parade first team All-American, Rivals 5-star recruit. He is a fantastic insurance agent and a great American. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together and welcome the incomparable Mr. Bradley Flowers. How are you, Bradley?
Fantastic. What about you?
Well, best I've ever been. Folks, I'm in Mobile, Alabama. It's 137 degrees outside with 162% humidity. I don't know how these kids practice football down here. I'd die in 13 minutes. Bradley, I got big news to report. 3 weeks ago, for the first time in probably 3 years, Scott started doing performance reviews. Now, let me tell you how I did it. First, I got with our friend and great American, Mr. Billy Wagner, and I said, Billy, you're smarter than I am. You know more than I do. Would you mind if I procured your performance reviews and then just molded them for my agency? And he was kind enough to let me have what they use. I have done probably 5 so far, and they've gone really well. Because I positioned it like, instead of, it being a bad thing, I'm like, look, guys, the reason we're doing this is one reason and one reason only. I want to help you achieve your goals, make the agency better. That's the only reason I want to do this. Mm-hmm. And it's going really well so far. I've been wildly happy with the way it's gone. Because, performance reviews can go the other way.
Mm-hmm. It can.
Folks start looking for a damn job after they get their performance review. But it's been really good. I wish I had done them earlier than I did. Still got a few more to go. I've probably done half of them, and I've probably got another half. But yeah, I wanted to give you an update because we talked about performance reviews.
Yeah. So how did it go?
It was great. I mean, like I said, I sat down and sat them down. I think it was on a Wednesday staff call. I said, guys, we're about to do performance reviews for everybody.
Did they all think you were going to fire them?
No. That's what I was saying is I positioned it like, this isn't like you're me telling what you need to improve on. This is for everybody. Mm-hmm. And it needs to be, and I want it to be, you interjecting where you feel like you are, where you feel like you could use improvement so that I can help you. But then overall, just areas that you feel like the agency can improve, things I can do to help you. And there have been 3 or 4 things that popped up on those performance reviews that I was like, man, I wish you'd have told me this earlier. I could have fixed this before now,
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Like, I'll give you an example. One, Bruce and Leslie are the team in that Priceville office, and both of them put on there, I wish that we get a lot of complaints from clients that don't like the phone tree here in Priceville.
Yep.
I wish our phone just rang straight to our office. Well, dude, I fixed that in like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Why didn't just next time tell me and I'll fix it. You don't have to wait till. Anyway, It went really well, guys. We got a special podcast for you today. Probably one of the technologies of the 3 or 4 out there right now that I'm the most bullish on. I think this guy and his partner have got something going here that at least I hope you'll go out and try. I know by the time this podcast comes out, they're going to have some updates that Bradley and I wanted to get with him about today and talk about. But let me give him the short introduction that he's always deserved. He's the CEO and co-founder of Gail, the financial services AI that actually speaks. Hundreds of financial institutions across the Americas rely on Gail daily to support their millions of customers, acting as a frontline employee for regulated industries like insurance and banking. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my profound honor today to introduce to you second-time guest on the IGP, Mr. Matthew Vega-Sanz. How are you, Matthew?
I'm doing well, doing better. It's better now. I get to talk to you, Scott.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show today. I don't hide the fact that you're one of our title sponsors here at the Insurance Guys podcast. I played around on Gail just a little bit, and I want to start using it more in the near future. But I want to get you on here today. Before we get started, for those guys that have missed what's happened here, I want to make sure we catch everybody, because there's certain people of the 250,000 insurance agents around the world that listen to this. They might catch an episode this week, but they might not catch the episode last week. So there may be some people that haven't heard about Gail and what you guys are doing. Can you kind of bring them up to speed on what Gail's doing right now in terms of what it is, how it can help their agency? And I don't ever tell anybody to do anything. I just ask them to go try it and see. So speak to that for just a minute.
Yeah, for sure. We now focus on the insurance component of it today, not all the financial services side. But you guys, for those listening at home, you guys could almost think of Gail as building the open AI for insurance. And so the way that open AI is building a bunch of different AI tools. One day they might have an AI you can chat with. Another day they might have an AI you could speak with verbally. We do something very similar, but everything catered towards insurance, to the point where Gail's being trained on insurance. It was actually the first AI capable of passing insurance licensing exams across the United States and all of that fun stuff. We have a couple different products. One of our products is an AI that speaks like a person on the phone and on text messaging and web chat. And we work with a couple hundred insurance companies and groups around the country. And they use Gail as a frontline employee. So they'll use Gail as a receptionist. They'll use Gail as a sales rep to do lead qualification, and it speaks multiple different languages. And again, it's trained to speak intellectually about these different topics. Mm-hmm. But the other product that we have, and I think this is the product that I typically push people to try more often, is we have a product called Gail GPT. And for anybody listening, I'm super sorry for all the cliches, but that one you could almost think of as Chat GPT for insurance. And the reason I encourage people to get started with that one is because I know when AI speaks and is acting as that frontline representative with your customers into the outside world, it could be really scary. You're going to have questions that say, hey, how are my employees going to feel about this? Are they going to think I'm trying to replace them? How are my customers feeling about this? Does this thing actually work? What's the implementation cycle? You're going to have a million different questions. What I always recommend with people is, hey, start off with Gail GPT. It's very similar onboarding experience to any GPT you've seen out there. Get started with your email, and that's really it. And you can get access to an AI that's able to help you evaluate coverage gaps. You can upload your policy information. You can upload your customers' financial data to help on the underwriting side. You can upload images and say, hey, did my adjusters overpay for this claim of a Toyota Corolla? You could really use it as that AI expert in your pocket for all things insurance. And what's really
by the way, don't do all of that on Chat GPT, because you're giving your customer data.
Do not do that, because they're going to throw all of your data into a data lake and they're going to commingle all of your stuff.
Yeah, if you do that in Chat GPT, agents, I need you to hear the words coming out of my mouth. My agency, my employees will get on Chat GPT. And last week, I sent out an email. Matthew, I can send it to you if you want to see it. And I said,
now I do want to see it.
It's subject line, Dear God, do not do this. All capital letters, Dear God, do not do this. I said, if you get on ChatGPT and you upload somebody's policy, or you put if any customer information is in that shit that you just uploaded, or a deck page that would be so simple to put on ChatGPT, you have just violated every privacy law known to man. And oh, by the way, there's only about 7 billion people that now have access to that shit. Does everybody understand that? Chat GPT is an open source. You put a deck page of somebody's on Chat GPT for John Smith that lives in Norman, Oklahoma. If I live in Indonesia, I can pull that up and see every damn thing on that deck page. Am I right?
Yeah.
Or am I wrong?
You're
right.
absolutely right. And so anybody that's listening, there's two things you can do. Go into your settings page and choose to not have it publicly share all your stuff. You can adjust the memory. Or the second thing you can do is just use Gail GPT. We really focus on two areas there. It's accuracy. And so we want Gail to be trained specifically on insurance. And so you can ask it something like explain ERISA rules. And it's going to actually give you an answer, cite the exact laws and statutes so you feel confident. And the other thing is, given that we support big financial institutions, we really focus on the systems architecture, making sure that everything is a super tight, closed environment, so there's no commingling of data. Because we do understand the sensitivity of data that's being uploaded into our systems. And so we take that super, super serious. And we have a bunch of flexibility and a bunch of things we've done on the architecture side to make sure everybody feels super comfortable, to make sure all the procurement and compliance teams sign off on it and all that fun stuff.
So talk about, on that note, something you said before we got on the air, and by the time this podcast airs, all of this will be live. Talk about some of the integrations you guys have built.
Yeah, so we're integrate. One of the things we always say is these AI, the terminology, these AI agents, these AIs that are automating your workflows, if they're not integrated into your systems, they almost create more work for you.
Mm-hmm.
And we were guilty of that when we launched Gail early on. Like if any listeners use Gail early on, we almost created more work for you because Gail, yeah, sure, it could handle 100 phone calls, but then you would have to go into the system, listen to the 100 phone calls, take the notes, upload it into your CRM. And so that'd be a pain in the ass. There's no other way to put it. And so what we've done now is we've integrated with the big systems like the Vertafores of the world, like their products, AMS 360, Agency Zoom, the Momentums, and now we're now doing an integration with InsuredMind so that Gail can speak with a customer on text message on the phone, and it can just automatically update those systems. So that it could also just automate certain workflows like, hey, if you want to have Gail call all your customers 30 days before renewal, Gail can now connect with your calendar and Gail can now see, okay, Bradley's free Thursday at 2:00. Let me pencil you in and let me send you a confirmation message. But you want Gail to go ahead.
Can I also ask Gail GPT, hey, tell me about this customer, what their coverage limits are and stuff like that?
So that feature is going to be one that comes out in, I believe, September. We already have it available on the voice and we already have it available in the testing environment. But that feature, we still need a little bit more testing.
Gotcha.
And that will most likely come out in September. But yeah, you'll now be able to say, hey, tell me about Bradley's business. Or you'll now be able to ask about Bradley's specific coverages if Gail has access to his certificate of insurance or his policy language. And so now instead of scouring through 300 pages of policy language, Gail's going to actually be able to do that for yourself. And again, because it's trained on insurance, it'll be able to understand the different terminology and all of that.
What I would love, what would be really cool. So all of the AMSs are guilty of this, right? Sometimes finding the right report is very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes if there's some specific data I want, sometimes the data I want doesn't exist. The report doesn't exist for it. Like let's say like customer lifetime value, right? Now Certs doesn't have a report for that, and rightfully so. A lot of agencies don't even know what that means. I would love to be able to integrate Gail GPT with my AMS to be able to ask questions like that. Like, hey, 100%. Tell me how long my average customer's been with me and what the average revenue is. Tell me this. I would love to be able to, instead of having to sift through reports to find the right report to give me the right, I'd love to be able just to ask something like, hey, tell me what this is. Boom, here it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And you're making the exact case, and that's exactly the type of functionality it'll have. The other cool thing that we're going to be adding to it as well is And again, this will be coming out later this quarter. If somebody wants to just have Gail rip off a campaign, to be able to say, hey, call all the leads that came in today and qualify them and schedule an appointment. And you'll be able to give Gail those instructions typing in the GPT interface. So it's not only going to be able to answer questions about the industry, about your business, you're also going to be able to send it off to do tasks. One of the things that we always talk about is we want Gail as a whole to almost become like the employee that you can just plug into different parts of your business. And so the same way you would send a Slack message, or the same way you would send an email to a new employee asking them to do XYZ tasks, that's where we want Gail. That's where we want Gail to thrive. And the people that are listening to this, they're hearing it. They're like, oh my God, that sounds so Black Mirror. You're trying to replace people. No, that's not the case. We're trying to open you guys up so you can just focus on selling, closing, doing more of the high ROI stuff. There's no reason why you have to be taking inbound calls to send somebody a COI.
Hey,
it makes more sense for you to focus elsewhere.
Or just like, some of the boomer agents are going to like melt when I say this, like the Wicked Witch of the West, but like uploading a policy in a safe environment and explaining the claims info and say, hey, tell me how this can possibly be paid. Right.
Absolutely.
And just stuff like that, because it's not that I can't do that, but I don't want to, if I have to, it's either read 60 pages or have this thing do it for me. And then, oh, by the way, it's going to point right to the clause in the policy and I can go directly to that to verify the info.
Well, I'll give you a crazy example. So last week we were with a top 5 brokerage firm for the entire week, setting things up for them. They gave Gail a couple people to test it out with, and we heard they were using Gail to work with some of their onboarding team. So their onboarding team would take a look at the proposal of the past. Then they take a look at what the current they take a look at the policy from last year. Then they take a look at the current proposal. And then they take a look at the newest policies. And then they would almost have like a checklist, just verifying that everything lined up. That work would typically account 6 to 8 hours. And so if you have a team of 3 or 4 people, you're spending 20 plus hours between those 3 people on a weekly basis sifting through that. With Gail GPT, they are now able to cut that down to less than an hour of work. They still had their team members look at Gail's work as a second pair of eyes and verify, but now it cut that work from 20 plus hours to less than 1. And now they were able to focus on doing other stuff too. So yeah, you're absolutely correct. There's no reason why you have to be sifting through, in this case, combined 300 or 400 pages worth of policy language.
I'll give you another idea, something that you guys could do. You may already be looking into this. So all of our phone calls are recorded and transcribed. I mean, pretty much any VoIP provider's doing that now. I was talking to a buddy this week. I was like, it'd be cool if we could have Gail analyze all of the sales calls and point out like, hey, this person's selling the most insurance. This is what they're doing differently than everybody else. Or, hey, here's some improvement for this person. They may want to ask this question here, or they totally whiffed on the close. But then also on the service and the sales side, put together like, hey, here's your most asked questions. And then we can take that by customers, and we can take that data and then sort of standardize from a training standpoint. Hey, this is how you need to answer this. That would be really neat.
Yeah.
And you're using the actual calls, you know?
Well, say that is one thing. Even if we don't have the integration with your AMS or whatever, that is something that Gail GPT is. Gail GPT is already connected to your phone calls. And so if Gail is speaking to 100 people a day, you can now get a sentiment analysis say, hey, how's everybody feeling today? Hey, is there a campaign that worked particularly well? And then in the instance where you did want to upload just like the transcripts from your human reps, you ultimately could do that as well. And it's been really interesting because we do see, especially when folks are trying to test out a new product, they'll almost A/B test it. They'll say, before we even give it to a rep, we're going to try out some of the approaches. We're going to try something that's a little bit more forward. We're going to try something that's a little bit more conservative in the approach. And depending on which one they use, then they give that to the human reps. Yeah. And so it's really interesting to see. And then they'll have a conversation with Gail again through the GPT side of things. It's just like, hey, what's working well? What type of language is resonating well? And it's funny because that's something that we even do with Gail. Like we dog food. We always joke around. We are our number one customer. And so like whenever we launch a Facebook campaign or a social campaign or email or any of that, we'll have already tested some of the terminology within our customer base. We'll have Gail call folks within our customer base and be like, hey, you guys want to try Gail GPT? You can almost think about it as like Chat GPT for insurance. And then we'll have Gail call another group of people and it'll be like, hey, this is the new insurance GPT. And now all of a sudden I know that Chat GPT for insurance resonates with people a little bit more for whatever reason. And so we even tested like that internally to see what's resonating before we start investing in the human capital to go out and do a certain campaign.
Hey, did you notice that he almost said the word dog food, and Pat Klein said the word dog food today? Is that a Silicon Valley term that's caught on? For
I guess
A/B
we use
testing?
it all the time. Like I got it from my brother, and we always say like we dog food our product more than anybody I know.
And that's A/B testing, right? When you say A/B testing, that's
when we say dog food, we just mean like we use our own product.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And so
Get high on your own
that's
supply.
like one of the things we always say. Like people, anytime we release a product, you can rest assured that we've used it at Gail. And that's just been one of the product philosophies my brother and I have had since we started our career in tech.
Yeah.
Every product that we tried to build and release that's been made for somebody else, we have not had success in. Any product my brother and I have built where we were the first customers, we've had far more success on. And so like my brother and I just have a philosophy. If we're going to launch a product, make sure we're able to dog food it.
So I don't know if you know this or not about me, Matthew. I'm a man that's lived many lives, but I am the senior vice president of sales for Hawksoft. And by the way, Paul Moyes, if you're listening to this message, I need your shit out of my office by Monday, please. I need to move in as soon as possible. Any chance you're going to partner up with Hawksoft at any time, or hell, for that matter, Agency Zoom?
He said Agency Zoom.
He already said Agency.
Yeah, we already have integration with Agency Zoom. I have to check what's going on with Hawksoft. I know Hawksoft is one of the groups we wanted to work with. And I think we do have them on the roadmap. It's just a matter of balancing out the integration roadmap.
Sure.
But yeah, Hawksoft's one of the group that we wanted to work with from day one. Put aside the technology side,
Yeah.
I think it's just badass that the founder has already built himself a pretty good business and has had some success, and you still see the guy at every trade show.
Absolutely.
So I just like I like them as a team, but they have a great audience base we want to tap into.
I'll tell you something really cool about Paul. So Scott and I went to their office. So every desk in the building he built.
Sure did.
So when they have a new employee start, he spends the few weeks before they start building their desk in his woodworking shop. If that doesn't,
so it's not like an IKEA desk.
No,
either. It's like a nice desk.
He builds them a. So does that is such a representation of the rest of the company, A, and then B, if I'm starting this job and I'm not so sure, and the actual CEO of this probably, 8-figure company built the desk for me, like I'm probably going to stay there a little longer than I know. You know what I mean? Like, I thought that was really cool.
The thing too is he's at every trade show.
Yeah.
The guy doesn't have to be there. Like you mentioned, like I've tried to, and Paul, if you're listening here, I don't mean to sound like a creep, but I've tried to run the back of the envelope math on what they probably generate in revenue and knowing gross margins in the software business. The guy has to be doing pretty well for himself.
Oh yeah.
He's been in it for a while. And the fact that he still shows up to set up the booth at these things, he's still there at closing. I also think about it like that's a level of customer obsession that you hear guys like Sam Walton and Jeff Bezos talk about. Yep. When you're going out and you're exploring vendors, how does that must get you fired up when you're trying to choose between two? It's like, am I going to choose this one, or am I going to choose a founder that's still trying to sell me 20 years or how many years he's into this game?
Yeah, absolutely. So let me ask you a question. There's a lot of noise out there about AI. It seems like there's a new vendor popping up every week. And, you've got the Chat GPT wrapper companies, and you've got all the. It's like if somebody's launching something new every day. If I'm an agent and I'm not doing a lot in technology right now, but I know I need to get on the AI train, and I'm just getting bombarded with emails and cold calls and texts and Facebook and all of that. Obviously the obvious answer is do business with Gail, but let's put that to the side. Like what things does the average agent A need to look for and B need to ask to protect themselves and make sure they're making the right decision? Because there may be an AI tool out there that doesn't compete with you guys that what are some questions they need to ask and things they need to look for?
I think the first one is, what problem am I trying to solve, or where do I want to start?
Yeah.
And I think that's the first question. 'Cause I can tell you right now, even if they're asking me, that's the first question I'll say.
Yeah.
I'm the first one to say Gail is not the AI for everybody. If you're selling $10 million insurance policies and you're a commercial brokerage and you have your system down packed and you're dealing with people that are all 60-year-olds in the Midwest, they don't want to speak to an AI. And sure, the Gail GPT side might help, but you probably have your systems. Maybe you just want marketing help. If you just want marketing help where they're going to help put together graphics, I would recommend something like Midjourney. Midjourney is going to build the most badass graphics you've ever seen in your life. If you want to get cuter with your marketing and you want to make a Christmas jingle, I would recommend something, I think it's like Suno. Like, they do phenomenal music type stuff. And so the first question I always ask is, what problem are you trying to solve, or what's the one thing you want to start with? That's the second thing. So I would always say, like, when you ask yourself, what's the problem you want to start with? Start off with one. Because if you try to start off with 4 or 5 or 6 things, you're gonna end up overwhelming yourself. And that's something that we even see with our big guys. When we go sell to a big bank or a big retail insurance group, those people might have frontline employee workforce of 10,000. They have a million different ways they can use it. And we even tell them start off with one use case, which typically ends up being like payment management.
Right.
So I'd always say the first thing to do is always ask, what am I trying to solve for? And then pick one thing that you're trying to solve for on day one. And then once you get comfortable, then you can start to expand. The second thing that I would look into as well is I would just open up the settings page, and then I would look to see on the settings page, do they have a toggle to turn off and on my data being shared with everybody? If you don't see anything there, it probably means they're keeping you in a closed environment. If you do see a toggle, it probably means that they're trying to default you, or like in your default account creation, you're trying to have your data thrown into the data lake and commingle. And so that's the first thing I'd pay attention to. The second thing I'd pay attention to is the funding. So you just search up company_funding. The reason for that, and I'm not trying to get into like this whole thing of go after whoever's raised the most capital, but funding typically does end up being a pretty good litmus test at times for, hey, do they have engineers? Are they building their own thing? So there's some sort of protection. And the other thing too is, if you choose an AI vendor at this stage, you want to make sure they're not going to die 6 months from now. And then you're going to have to start the journey from scratch too. And so funding typically gives you a little bit more sense of calmness. It's not, of course, not always going to solve it, because there's companies that raise a bunch of money and still die. But those would be the things that I would start to ask is, like, after you've dictated what your use case is, when you start actually looking for a vendor for that use case, I'd take a look at like, hey, what's your privacy policy? And then 2, are they going to be around 6 months from now?
Well, the thing is too,
like,
if somebody's raised money from big VCs, a lot of times those VCs are the ones that hold their feet to the fire in terms of making them have the proper security measures and all of that sort of stuff, right? Am I wrong in that? Because they don't want to throw $100 million.
They'll run the diligence.
Yeah, exactly. So they're going to make sure it's run like a business and not a guy in mom's basement doing a startup.
Hey, Matthew.
Yeah.
I want your professional medical opinion on the song I created on is it Suno.ai?
I think it's Suno.
Suno. I want your professional medical opinion on the Get Eye Protected jingle that I created last week on Suno. Are you ready?
I can't wait for this.
Man, I have a whole album that I made for myself.
Hold on. Oh, wait, I can't do it on that. Hold on. But I can damn sure do it on that.
Oh man, I can barely hear it. No, I could still barely hear it, man. You can send it to me afterwards.
I can't believe you can't hear that.
It's probably too close.
Yeah, maybe.
It's catchy. It's catchy. I protect.
I'm gonna send it to him right now.
Yeah, go for it.
You can listen.
No, man, but it's crazy. It's crazy that stuff with the AI. It's crazy that stuff with the AI. Look, like even more examples for folks to test out. Like Canva has a really good one where you kind of give Canva the idea of what you want your presentation to be, and they put it together for you. And so there's so many tools outside of Gail that I recommend to people. And like we use so many of them outside of Gail as well. Like Canva's a great one.
Yeah.
We use Fireflies for transcriptions of video calls and stuff like that. So there's so many tools, but I would always say pick one use case on day one because you're going to overwhelm yourself if you try to do 6 different use cases on day one.
Well, it's crazy too, is how. So I'm speaking to the young agents of Louisiana this coming Friday, and if I get I'm doing one presentation.
Are you going to get to hang out with our brother, the insurance commissioner?
I don't know. I thought about opening with a joke about that.
Oh my
gosh.
But
so. My second presentation is about content creation and a little bit of AI. And I'm going to ask the question, if you're in this room and you use ChatGPT or Grok or whatever in place of Google search, raise your hand. And I cannot wait to see how many hands go up. Because for me, like ChatGPT is my Google now. Like I don't Google stuff.
Dude, funny enough, that's like one of the next big updates we're doing at Gail GPT is for you to be able to search stuff up.
Nice.
So you can run reports. But one of the other things I'd say too on the AI stuff for those listening, what I would say too is when you're evaluating technologies, it takes skill to evaluate technologies. It takes skill to actually use these technologies. Like somebody like Bradley, who's been messing around with this stuff for quite some time, is going to have drastically different results than my mom, who's never used this stuff before. So that's one of the other things too that I would tell everybody out there is practice using AI. Using AI is a skill the same way using Excel sheets is a skill, using the same way that
well, it's like the prompts and stuff. Anything. You know, it's like, you know, prior to ChatGPT, like there's a certain way you had to type things in Google in order to get the results you wanted. Right. And it's the same with AI. Like you have to know the prompts. And the biggest advice somebody gave me, it was actually CJ Hudson Pillar. He's like, the mistake people make with AI is they talk to it like it's a computer that you need to talk to like it's a human. Give it as much context as you possibly can.
Absolutely. And for those listening, the other things too is like, there's this great company called, I think they're called Case Text is what their name. They sold to Reuters a few years ago for like $600 million or something like that. It was a stupid amount of money. They didn't develop any of their proprietary language models or anything. All they did was essentially prompt engineer an AI. I think it was GPT-3. They prompt engineered it to evaluate case law and legal documents in a specific way. If you do nothing else but prompt your AI in a really, really good manner, you're going to be surprised by the insane results that you're going to get. And so that's one of the other things too, for those listening out there, like even to Bradley's point, prompting is a skill and you're going to get drastically different results if you know how to prompt well versus somebody who's doing it for the first time.
Yeah.
And getting that writing style as to how to prompt it effectively is practice, like CJ was saying.
Hey, I'll take, go ahead. Sorry.
So I'm sorry to ask you and Bradley this question, but I keep hearing the words when I hear Gail GPT or Chat GPT, and then I hear the word prompt, people, because the overwhelming social media is like, you got to know how to prompt. So for those agents out there that maybe aren't using Chat GPT, when you say the word prompt, what you mean by that, Matthew and Bradley, is prompt is what you're telling the GPT of choice that you want and how to write it. So whether that's like act as if you're a copyright expert or act as if you're a copyright expert and an independent insurance agency owner.
Yeah.
That's what we mean by the word prompt, correct?
Yeah, it's just instructions that you give the AI. So
Yeah.
it's very similar to instructions you give a new claims adjuster. You might historically, you might have shot your claims adjuster a message saying, hey, make sure there's a claim to file first notice of loss. So your instructions and your prompt to that person is just file first notice of loss in the case of an accident. If you wanted to write an even more in-depth, in this case, prompt, or give more in-depth instructions, you'd say, hey, when putting together a first notice of loss, make sure to take a copy of the policy, a police report, take the name of the insured, take a name of whoever they crashed into, take a name of the asset that was damaged in this incident. And so the prompt is just the instructions. And when Bradley and I are talking about developing a skill in writing prompts, it's just developing a skill in writing instructions. The same way that you have to develop a skill in managing your human reps, the same way you have to develop a skill in communicating with your team members, you have to develop a skill here in putting together effective instructions for the AI.
Talk a little bit about hallucinating.
Yeah, so for those that are listening and don't know the terminology, hallucination is when an AI makes a mistake. And so sometimes the mistake could be as simple as just misspelling somebody's name. Sometimes the hallucinations can be as bad as what happened last year at a Chevy dealership where somebody convinced the AI to give them a free Chevy truck.
Hell yeah, they did.
Yeah. Hallucinations are mistakes that these AI makes. Now, one of the ways that a group like us, where we're playing in highly regulated spaces, one of the things that we'll do is we have a team of testers, and our testers are constantly running God knows how many simulations, so that if we come out with a Gail that's going to be a support rep that's helping with payment management, we on our Gail side are going to give it instructions as to, hey, under no circumstances are you going to let somebody get away with free insurance for the next year. So we're giving it those instructions. But the other thing that we're doing as well is we're testing out how those instructions are. And so we'll get super intense with our research and our development, where we'll tell Gail, hey, even if somebody is threatening something like, as intense as it sounds, suicide, do not give them free insurance. Even if somebody is telling you that they're going to murder their entire family, do not give them free insurance. But when you're developing those guardrails, you have to give them certain rules and parameters to play by. So like in this case, hey, if somebody's threatening suicide because they want free insurance, take the empathetic approach, make sure that you help calm them down, you pass them off to the suicide hotline and all that. And I'm using a really extreme example.
Right. Sure.
But that's how you train the AI to deal with those tough things, and to minimize hallucinations is by training it to be able to handle those really extreme examples. The other thing that you manage those hallucinations is just being airtight in the restrictions that you give it. You want to tell it, hey, some people, in order to minimize the restrictions, tell it, hey, do not discuss anything that is not absolutely factual, meaning do not discuss anything that I can't pull from the AMS system. But some people, they want you to be able to converse about what your favorite beverage is and stuff like that. They want to loosen up the guardrails, which opens up the opportunity for hallucinations. So from our side, the hallucinations are those mistakes that Gail or any AI can make. Before we release a new product or a new version of Gail, we have a full team of people running God knows how many simulations. But we also encourage our end users, which are in this case the insurance agency owners, the insurance carriers, listen to Gail's conversations. When Gail updates a note in your CRM or Gail uploads a transcription, make sure you're paying attention to that and listening in on some calls the way you would with a new employee, so that you can also give Gail your own guardrails as well.
What's your thoughts on some of the rhetoric out there now that there could be the DOI could have an issue with some of, not with you guys specifically, but with some of the AI stuff out there now? What's your thoughts on that? That because there's rhetoric on LinkedIn and other channels that, you know, having AI talk to your customer is against insurance regulations.
I don't necessarily agree with that at all. I think companies like Geico, and this is like the stuff we piggyback off, but I think companies like Geico and better take a step back. We've spoken with a lobbyist. We've spoken to groups on both sides of the aisle, Republican DOI commissioners, liberal DOI commissioners. The main thing that we hear from most groups, and I think a lot of it depends on what mood they woke up in that day, is Progressive and companies like Progressive and Geico have already set a lot of precedents.
Mm-hmm.
And so the only difference here is instead of chatting on a chat box with an AI, you're doing it over the phone.
Yeah.
And so I think we're fortunate enough that those guys have ultimately paved the way for companies like us. But I'll be completely honest, like, it does scare the shit out of me sometimes when I see some of these voice AI companies who have people who have never played in a regulated industry that are trying to sell into these highly regulated companies. And it's not because it's me trying to talk bad about these other companies. Like, we have one of our competitors, there are a couple founders from Stanford, very formidable and talented young people, but it's very hard for you to build something in a highly regulated space like insurance if you've never actually seen what requirements your procurement teams require,
right?
What requirements your compliance teams are pushing for, and all of that. And so it does give me pause when I see folks who have never built this stuff before trying to play there, because I can tell you 100% from my conversations with them, they're not thinking about a lot of the stuff that they should be.
Yeah.
And rightfully so. They're coming from Silicon Valley, where a lot of it's just push it out and then try to figure it out after. Yeah. And that works if you're trying to play an e-com, but it's a little bit different when you're actually talking about somebody's policy and what coverages you're going to have and what type of chemo coverage somebody should get. And so that's where one of those things where I do think the DOI is going to start over the course of the next couple of years tightening things up. And I actually agree with them that 100% they should. But that's like what I would respond to that type of stuff is a lot of the precedents for AI has been set by companies like Geico and Progressive. And I think we're very fortunate. They're going to continue to only set precedents. Like, we're working right now with a lot of the big carriers who have the lobbyists they can afford to allow for certain tools like Gail to be used.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I hear all the concerns coming from the people on LinkedIn and Twitter, because there are a lot of people that are building stuff right now that lacks the security and the privacy and that certain architectures that are necessary for this industry. And look, it's not them doing it out of malice. It's just them doing it because they're new to the space. They don't know better.
Yeah. My pushback to that rhetoric has always been, and there's also like the whole E&O argument as well. But my pushback has always been, well, this is an AI that is deployed by an agency that the human tells it what to do in scenarios, right? It may be running on its own eventually, but like it's the parameters are set by a human. It to me, it's not very much different than an automated text message, right? Like I'm sending an automated text message to my customer that I wrote 3 years ago, right? To me, it's no different. And then, but I'll tell you too, I sat in on I don't remember who was hosting it, but it was a webinar on this subject. And the general consensus among the group is there's going to really be no overseeing from Scott grabbed my hand like he was going to hold my hand. It threw me off.
I just touched his hand and he just went.
I'm trying to think the way to word this. It's really on the carriers. Like who the DOI and people like that are really looking at are the carriers and you guys, not necessarily the agencies that are using it. Now, obviously that water gets muddied if the agency built their own AI, but that's really where the regulations and the tightening of the screws is going to come down on are the companies deploying the AI and the carriers, not necessarily the end user, which are the agencies.
Yeah, and I'll give some additional stuff that we've heard from the public. So one of the things that I didn't expect, or not the public, from a lot of the legal teams, one of the biggest things I did not expect, I always thought that when we were going to go into procurement with a lot of these groups, the lawyers would be the ones that hated us the most, and we're trying to push it off.
Yeah.
We find the lawyers are the biggest advocates for us because the biggest thing that they're always saying is, we have no idea who those 10,000 people are in a call center that are acting on our behalf. We have no idea what they're doing with the data. We have no idea what they're training. We have no control over somebody in the Philippines answering basic calls or VAs. So a lot of the lawyers are like, hey, it's actually much easier to control the AI than it is somebody overseas.
Mm-hmm.
And so we actually find the legal teams, because of that, end up being our biggest advocates. We provide an entire audit trail. You can train Gail to give the guardrails. You can monitor all the text message, phone calls, all of that. And so we've actually seen that a lot of the legal folks on these companies are the biggest advocates. And then the other thing that we've seen is there is, and again, this is not legal advice, so don't take me for it, but we have seen there is some pretty interesting case law that if you're a company in a highly regulated space like insurance, if your representative gives wrong information because they pulled something off of Google and they got the wrong answer, you as the company oftentimes end up being liable for two reasons. One, you might have not trained them properly, but two, because you didn't arm them with the tools to get the best information. If you as a business in a highly regulated space, and there's case law that pushes towards this, if you as an individual, if you as a business give your people the resources, and that resource is what gives them the wrong information, you're in a way protected. And so we see a lot of legal teams that are just like, you know what? We open ourselves up to a lot of liability. If our employees are professional Google searchers, we actually protect ourselves if they use something like a Harvey AI or a Gale or a Cursor or whatever it might be.
Cool.
Matthew, as always, thank you for coming on the show today.
Of course. Thank you guys. Thank you guys for having me.
We
and for the
appreciate
flexibility with the timing.
I've already sent you a couple of emails since we've been sitting here.
Yeah, I saw them.
I got a couple more I got to send you this evening, but we love you. We appreciate what you're doing, fighting a good fight, and look forward to seeing you.
Are you coming to Miami in January too, or is that just Bradley?
It's just me, but I was going to try and talk Scott into it.
All right. Scott, I'm going to send you a few restaurant names to see if we can get you over here.
Have you ever been to Komodo?
Yeah.
I like Komodo.
It's a good spot.
Yeah.
Do y'all have rabbit legs and squirrel down there? I mean, is that do you
we
serve
got
that?
everything. There's a great place where I grew up called Apocalypse Barbecue. Has the best cornbread you'll have.
Well, that's a step out considering I'm from Alabama. Cornbread, huh? Cornbread in Miami. I never thought those two words would come out of my mouth. Yeah. All right, Matthew, I'm going to shut this thing down. Hey, guys, you're listening to the Insurance Guys Podcast, powered by Gail. My name is Scott Howell. This is Bradley Flowers. And as I end every episode, rewards come from action, not discussion. Get your ass out from behind that desk today. Go out into the big bad world. Become the mayor of your village. And whatever you do, tomorrow morning, when you hear this podcast, walk in your office, get your staff in your office, and you better tell them. I'm serious. I've never been more serious in my life. They better not download a damn customer spreadsheet, lead spreadsheet, deck page, policies to Chat GPT unless you want the entire world from Singapore, Indonesia, Jamaica, Europe, Russia, Japan. Everybody's going to have access to that data, guys. You better figure it out before you get in a bunch of trouble. As I end every episode, rewards come from action, not discussion. Get your ass out there today and go sell insurance. Write good business for the agencies that you represent and write good business for the carriers that you represent. Bradley Flowers, I love you.
Thanks, man. Thanks, Matthew.
Thank you, Matthew.
Thank you, guys.
All right, we'll talk soon. Guys, you are listening to the Insurance Guys Podcast, and we love each one of you. Thank you so much for being a part of our family, and we'll see you back here real soon. Take care.